I call the ad hoc solar farm committee meeting to order at 3:02 p.m. I would entertain a motion to nominate a committee chairperson.
Anybody want to volunteer? Why are you looking at me?
Good. You're the only one that's got a notebook.
I will co-chair with somebody, but I won't chair.
It's basically run the meeting, we are gonna run it as a, open committee, committee of the whole, and just relax, but they'll still follow Robert's rules.
Right.
We do need a secretary that may take notes. Other than that, we don't have to do any other formalities.
Just certifying the posting of the meetings,
Yeah.
which we can take care of typing the certifications for and posting the meetings.
If somebody really just control the meeting, keep the direction going, flow the way we want it, come up with the ideas, and somebody that can be responsible. I don't, it can't be me. I got too much for doing it. But,
Well, I have a husband that has Alzheimer's,
sure.
and so I don't feel I can do it alone.
Nominate Jeff Weingart.
Second?
Okay.
Who was the second, please?
Denise Barker.
Thank you.
B-A-R-K-R. All those in favor? Opposed?
All right, so your chair is, I'm sorry,
Jeff Weingart.
Jeff.
How many boards, how many you want in charge? 3, 5?
Doesn't matter. One
You just need a chair is all you need.
Okay, we don't need a chair, okay.
You don't need a vice, you just need somebody to take care of the meeting and somebody to take some minutes. That I'm happy to type for you if you give them to me to type.
Denise, you want to be co-chair, you want to take the minutes?
No. I will.
Thank you, Cindy.
Cindy's gonna do it. Lewis?
Yep,
Who did the nomination for him?
I got that.
Oh,
I'll get it to you. All right, I gave you the certification of the meeting. Jeff, if you want to give it back to me, I'll certify it for you.
Say that again?
I gave you the certification of the meeting, the posting.
Yep.
Can you want to give that back to me and I'll go ahead and certify the meeting for you? And then do you have an agenda?
No.
There's one on the wall here.
Okay.
All right, I certify that on Monday, July 28th, 2025, the agenda for the Town of Rome Ad Hoc Committee for Wednesday, July 30th was posted at the Rome Town Hall at 11:04 a.m., Quick Trip LLC at 11:09 a.m., Nakusa Port Edward State Bank at 11:14 a.m., and emailed to the Wisconsin Rapids Tribune at 12:11 p.m. Cindy, I'll get you a copy of this. I'm now handing the meeting over to the chair, who should probably go sit at the table with a microphone. Please remember that when you are talking, you do need to come up to a microphone so the audience can hear you who is watching outside of on the television.
Sure, it's turned on.
Thanks, Jeff. Well, it looks like we're
We're being videotaped. Turn on the mic.
we're being videotaped?
That's why. You gotta turn it on. Make sure the green light is on. Is it okay?
Yeah.
You're good.
Okay, so I guess we have to approve the agenda, correct?
Yeah, make a motion. I'll make the motion do that. Second.
Does everybody have a copy of this?
all those in favor, right?
Okay. If everybody has a copy, then all those in favor to approve the agenda?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
We would have to copy the, as a copy?
Need more?
Two more. Thank you.
So the next part of this is to discuss a brainstorming session on possible ways to fight the solar farm. Anybody got any ideas?
First of all, get up the light down. I'll let her go
And sorry, your name?
Denise Barker, B-A-R-K-E-R. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. I want to start the discussion, I'm hoping today, with a sensible idea, I think. I'm wondering if the town board would be legally able to create a zoning ordinance which requires that any solar bank approved by the PSC be no closer to a residential zoned area than 10 acres away, cannot be more than 5 acres, and that 5 acres must be enclosed on all boundaries with at minimum, a 3-acre natural vegetation tree buffer zone. It is required that the buffer zone make it invisible to the surrounding area. Is that a possibility?
We can, yeah, if you don't mind. I can speak as myself, not as a board member, but the board can do a lot of things that could easily pass on our end, but may be overturned. We can discuss a little bit what we talked to the attorney about last week. It was a closed session, but he did give us some opinions on what we could pursue with. That was not one we went into detail with. We did mention a little bit of litigation, but didn't really get into on ordinances. But I have heard from others in other parts of the state that have passed ordinances, more relating to battery storage and a few other things. So anything's on the table. I'm not going to say no, but I will say we can check on it and find out. I think it's a good idea.
My question to go along with that is it required that the buffer, or would it be required that the county zoning approval? Would an ordinance like that require county approval as well for the zoning ordinance?
A lot of the ordinances we pass do have to pass muster with the county.
Okay. Then some of my just general suggestions is that we need to look at having community meetings on a weekend so that all property owners have the option of being available for those meetings, with mailings to all landowners to keep them updated routinely. Maybe, we can't do it every meeting or anything like that, but keep them updated so that they're following this. And the other idea, I think, that we need to get started on right away is putting together a petition and getting absolutely as many property owners as we can to sign on to the petition so that we have that when it comes time that we need it for the PSC.
Is there a legal process for some sort of a binding petition that we should put in front of our attorney first to make sure that when we do this, we do it correctly?
Sure. He's willing to help us across the board, so he's open to a lot of the ideas.
The other thing is I think that as a committee, the ad hoc committee should look at organizing and planning for pressure campaigns to occur to the PSC, the elected representatives, the governor, and any candidates running for those offices.
Getting on that topic, we do know our state representative is on board with us. He just wasn't able to make the meeting. Unfortunately, what I saw this week, the state senators seems to be not on board with us on this one.
And that's Teston, correct?
Pardon me?
Is that Teston, correct? That doesn't surprise me at all.
But
We have to look at the fact that it's about the money. And those guys are going to give those people in office or running for office money. They're not shy about spending money to try and get what they want done.
what I think we have in our corner is if we can keep pressure with the media. I mean, because
That's the next
when I
one I've
reached
got.
when I reached out to WSAW and the radio station, they jumped on board immediately. And as you can see, they were supposed to be here, but she was sick. They were here the day before. So they are aware, and I've often mentioned to them about other towns. One I keep harping on is Christiana, that has been fighting this, and we need to kind of like parallel with them to find out what are they doing right that we can jump on board with, and that's in Dane County. If you want to Google it, Christiana.
Okay.
What is that, like a city that? What is Christiana? Is it a city that is fighting it as well, or a
It's a town.
Christiana?
It's a township. I believe it's a township. It's in Dane County.
Okay. I do think that our publicity needs to involve phone calls, letters, civil protests. Somebody brought up the idea of a bus for going to the PSC. I thought that was a good idea at the meeting, so.
Yeah. Well, let me throw a suggestion at you. How about at the Romans Market? Can't we have like a booth of something and have the petition there?
Sure, why not?
I mean, there are a number of people that come there, and a lot of them are absentee owners. And if we can start getting, I agree with you on that part. Rather than going door to door, which is
Impossible out here.
right, exactly. But at the Romans Market, we could do it. Wait, the farmers market.
Right. My question is can we send out a notice? Is there a way to send out notices to all the property owners?
Yes, we have a list of all the property owners, but that gets very, very expensive.
Yeah, and are we going to be able to do that on the town budget? Or are we going to have to figure out a different way to fund that?
This is a town function, so we can bring it up with the board, but I think the town should be willing to donate into this, but it is a board decision.
Okay. The 4 areas that I think are really important for us to really get schooled about and be on the same page about are the environmental impacts, the property evaluation for the town of Rome's damage that would occur, the impact for the vacation area no longer being a vacation area being developed, because it's going to shut us off. On that northern end, it's just going to close it down.
Can I say something? Interrupt you? I'm surprised that the people that you talk to who have places in Rome that I ran into, actually I ran into a lady out here on Monday morning who I come in to get a new dump sticker for my truck, and we walked out after she got her stickers. She didn't even know we needed new stickers. That's one thing. And I said, do you know anything about the solar farm coming? She goes, what are you talking about? She said, I haven't heard anything about it. She said, we own a place up here. My daughter comes up here. She said, we just come up this week for a week. And she goes, we don't know anything. But I'm wondering how many taxpayers and landowners don't really know that, they don't come up here. So I think it's very important that we get letters out with important what's going on here. On the front, some people take these letters in Town of Rome. The only one they look at is their tax bill. And I think we need to get them out there. And
We can,
I almost wonder if we could do the first mailing with a postcard.
right, we can do postcards, we deal with the folks in town too.
Yeah, but see, that's an ongoing issue with everything in the town. I think we've addressed this before on the board, trying to reach out to the citizens because emailing people and just hitting the send button would be ideally so everyone has it. But if you start putting a 77-cent stamp, I think it's 77, on the stamp on, remember now, the full-time residence is about 3,000. When you start adding the part-time, we're talking over 10,000.
Well, you only have to
You only have to send it to the address. I don't think there's that many. There's not 10,000 addresses here, are there?
Yeah.
No. But if there's 7,000 properties, they get a lot of multiple owners, so you're probably talking around 45,000. I think it's around 4,000 to 5,000.
So we're talking about a mailing that would encompass 4,000 or 5,000.
And that would cost about $5,000.
Yeah.
But, well, no.
Not to mention printing costs.
If you go through O2C, you get a discount, so they do bulk mailing, so. I mean,
Okay.
You say whatever you want, but the other thing is, I can check and see how many people we have on our e-alert system, because that's the one we should be using.
Remember, you have to talk into the mic so the people on television can hear you.
Yeah.
I'm trying to talk loud here, so, but, yeah.
So are there any funds in the budget for something like this?
If there is, there should be.
There was nothing budgeted for it, but that doesn't mean there aren't funds out there.
So that needs to be an item that gets added to the town's,
Yeah, it's
Meetings.
already on next week's board meeting, the solar farm.
okay, so,
It'll be on every,
but there's gonna be money involved here, so,
there's money involved, we have to come up with a dollar amount, and get a rough idea of what the cost is. It's been a lifestyle, she can't hear me.
so each mailing is gonna cost about somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000,
Probably, somewhere in that range.
plus whatever printing costs are to print up the postcards.
There's that factor too. Yeah?
That's one avenue. Keep in mind too, we are still shorthanded here with folks. We have a zoning administrator coming. We have a zoning administrator coming, waiting for a return on that, and then the town administrator also, that posting is out. But we're short those two people and probably one or two help. So we are a little shorthanded still here, but we'll figure it out.
As long as we're talking about costs, our attorney warned us last week when we talked in closed session, fighting a PSC, this is gonna come into big dollars. And what I would like to know from the residents, myself being on the board, how much money do you wanna spend on fighting this solar farm? It's gonna cost a lot of money. He couldn't give us a dollar figure. The longer we drag this out, the more it's gonna cost.
Lady in the back row had a question.
Sorry.
No problem. Hi, I'm Bonnie Marker. I live on Dover Court, Lake Camelot. And I'm wondering, we have some printing companies right here. I wonder if we could get them to volunteer to help us out with the printing on this, so it wouldn't cost us so much, because they're involved too. And my other question is, who sold the land to the solar farm in the first place? Was it the paper mills? And if it's the paper mills, they may not have a shot because they own the trees. And so if they want to sell the trees to make money because they're not doing very well, then maybe this might be up against a wall. If it's the paper companies. They're leased? Okay. Have they ever said to us, the solar farm, that should there be a dysfunction, that they would handle it, of taking care of all the problems that would arise from it, like disintegration of the solar panels after a while, if it's not running properly? Because this will break down and go into our water system and our ground, because you won't be able to use that ground again to grow anything because of the chemicals. Sorry, just some crazy questions.
Hi, I'm John Marker. I live same address she does. Anyways, we spend our winters in Florida. And in Manatee County, they put in a solar farm of about 5,000 acres, which is approximately the size of what we're talking about here. It took them 5 years and 3 companies to do it. And what happens is they get to a certain point of agreement with you, like putting a fence around it, which is a big thing, to keep the animals and to keep people away from their solar panels. In Florida, they started the thing, put the fence up, no solar panels. That company went belly up. Another company bought the land from them and then put the solar panels on. It took them 2.5 years to order solar panels to put on. So all this ground that had been trees, nice trees, was all just bare and stumps and garbage laying all over the place for 3 years before they started putting the solar panels in. Once they started the solar panels in, they started small sections, and it took them 2 years to put the solar panels in. Then what happens is they didn't plan for drainage, which my wife mentioned. Drainage is a big, big problem with these solar panels. There's a lot of acid in the solar panel. There's a lot of acid that is caused by the solar panel in the atmosphere. That acids go down into our earth and they saturate, and about a mile from the solar farms, they had to stop using what they call shallow wells, which are maybe 150 feet in Florida. Then what happened is the solar panels, after 5 years, they start to go bad. And not all of them at once. So they don't want to replace all of them at once. So they start replacing them, and it just tore up again from replacing these solar panels. Now, I understand that with the new solar panels, they can get out to 7.5 years out of a solar panel, but no more than that. And the county did not realize this and did not put any stipulations on the solar panel people to or the solar farm, excuse me, to rework their solar panels. So some worked, some didn't work, and after a period of time, the county, which was, they're smart, they put a millage on each solar panel of how much it was going to produce, and the county got a millage back from the solar company for the power produced on that landfill. And then they started to bring that down because they said 60% of the solar panels weren't working, and they weren't going to, they've ordered them, but they weren't going to get them for 2 more years. So there's some issues in once this starts that will be interesting to see, but they probably have spent much more money than what we're going to spend already on just property. And I used to do this as a business, buying properties and companies for my company. Just the organization and start of this thing, they probably spent $10 million on lawyer fees. And also they've got, I see aerial shots of the thing, means that there was a surveying company involved with it all. They have a lot of money probably invested in this already. For us to fight that kind of money will cost us a lot of money, as this gentleman just mentioned to you. I worked, as I mentioned to you, as a company executive, that we did buy companies, bought 38 companies in 20 years around the world, and we had to go through and understand what they were, and the cost of that is astronomical. You could spend $10,000 just in 3 or 4 phone calls to lawyer systems. I mean, it gets to be really high. So if you're going to fight them from a lawyer standpoint, you better have some deep pockets, is all I'm saying.
And the right lawyer.
Okay. Thank you.
That was one of the questions we asked Stan. He is our attorney. to come up with a number next year for the budget, because he's been doing this for a while. He's representing several other townships right now in suits, in different various activities. So that's already in process. So we'll hopefully get a number, and we'll let the folks know. And again, yeah, it's going to see how much do we want to spend, how far do we want to push this. I'd like to add a couple of things, though. Things that we did discuss there. He did say if we go to the PSC and try to just fight the PSC with being kind to meetings and all that, our chances are 0.5%. He said, but the other way to go is to stretch it out so the funding goes away. But he also said the environmental impact of animals and endangered species has legs. He kind of liked that one. So that's one avenue we can go. It's not a huge cost. But again, we need somebody that's familiar with UW-Stevens Point and maybe get some of their departments involved here and do some research. But that one I think we ought to pursue. We can do that right away. As far as the other ones, yeah, I do like some of the other comments made, but we'll have to take it to the board, see what the board says, and then go back to the folks and see what the folks say. So. Anything else?
Right.
There's got to be more mics around here somewhere.
I know, right? So right now, I mean, because we're kind of the ad hoc committee, it's like we need to talk about, what is it that we want to do. I really like what you shared, because you had that experience, and I don't, like getting that out in the media, because I don't know if we were at the board meeting last week when we discussed the solar farm, and they were talking about how, going ahead with it, there are a lot of people that don't know, and there's a lot of, Carl, you had mentioned that the PSC, they pulled their first permits, right?
They applied for it.
They applied for it, okay.
12 to 18 months.
12 to 18 months.
Our attorney did say we have to be ready to go with information by November,
Okay.
the timeline.
So well, you know what I'm thinking with you, let's see, John, is, like getting that information out to the media, because one of the things was it you that had said that NextEra has 500 or 600, that they have initiated 500 or 600?
Hundreds, I don't know how many.
Or hundreds, okay, hundreds, but they run actually 5 or 6. That really stuck with me. So, that's the other thing, is that the solar farms, their NextEra, they will come in, they will line their pockets, is what we have said, but they'll also sell them. And then it's not their problem anymore. And
Did anybody listen to that 10 o'clock news the other night? What was your opinion of her story?
if I had never heard the story when I saw that on the news, I would, like, if I was just coming in blind, it was definitely not informational enough about the impact to Rome. And then they got comments from NextEra. So when I talked to a couple of people that didn't know, and I understand journalism is and can be skewed, but because they got information in NextEra, they gave all their reasons why, which they've given to us too. All of the things that really are not relevant, to here. But was it concerning as we are, like what the impact is going to be? Not at all, John. I don't know if that's how you saw it too. And then someone posted it on the Nextdoor app so other people could see it. And I know that I commented. I don't know, Gary, if you commented, but then there were people on there that said, even just on that app, looking at the comments saying, oh, I didn't know this. What are you talking about? But, the media, I think, is a really strong presence. We need to get it out in the media, and I like about so Carl, going that endangered species route, if we had to contact someone at UWSP, what would that look like? Any idea? Like, if I were just to...
Somebody in environmental science department in there, and then, and again, we'd have to probably fund it somehow. That'd be a town function. But we're looking for endangered species, and again, you go to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, they can shut a project down just like that. DNR, not so much, and who knows, the PSC is going to care.
So the first step would be contacting somebody at UWSP in the environmental science department,
Yep.
and us because I'd be willing to do that.
Okay. Just find out, let them know the situation here and let them know what we're up against. I've got already a list from the federal government for the animals and the plants that are under, that are in trouble right now.
And what are we, when I contact them, what are we looking for them to do?
Find habitat or find the animals and plants that are in that area already. If you find an eagle's nest up there, you're done, at least in that area, but. If the Carnes,
Really?
Yeah, the Carnes butterfly, they are in the area.
Well, they probably would know,
Yeah. One other thing too, on the news report, next year did come back, or Akron actually came back with information that wasn't totally honest. Let's put it this way: they said $25 million. The town's going to get $25 million in revenue. Nonsense. Exactly. They're giving $1 million a year between the county and the town. We're at 40-something%. So you take 400,000 times 30 years is around 13-something. That's if they're still paying down the road. Who knows? So, and we have nothing in writing. I don't know what our liability is. I don't know what our ability to handle anything that comes up with them. If they tear the roads up, they say, oh, we'll take care of them. That's nice to say that, but we have nothing in writing.
Okay.
One thing I've been kind of researching. I don't know if you went online and looked on, Googled, was it Nextera or Akron? They are spin doctoring right now. They've got pictures of our fire department. They even had a whole thing promo when Tom did the mutts for the putts or dogs or whatever. You know what I'm talking about. And there's, it's almost like we're doing so much for the town of Rome. And then I don't know. I think we all heard what they said was it last week or 2 weeks ago we had the meeting? People were knocking door to door. And they were paying people to sign off on forms to say that you're with them on this. So they're spin doctoring, and we need to sit back and make a list of what we want to do. Let's cut the emotions out of it and find a reason to fight them now. And I think the first thing is let's contact the UW Stevens Point. Okay, let's get them going. And again, another thing, like I say, we need to also keep monitoring other towns that are finding some kind of success, because, like I say, if we parallel with them, okay, I think that would be good. And then, like I say, you keep in contact with the media. We got them hopefully in our pocket with the newspaper, the radio, and the TV. That's why they're responding. That's why I don't know if you saw this guy. The last week he was out there taking notes and taking pictures of us. So they're spin doctoring, and they're making themselves look good. And unfortunately, we might have people in town that are taking the $1,000 that they're offering.
I'm sure they are.
Was that $1,000 a one-time thing, or I heard somebody say it was every month?
It was monthly.
A month.
Yeah. Okay, you in the back. Well, wait.
I've got it, but I haven't used it yet. But
Well,
that's-
go ahead.
Okay, all right. This might not look like much, but it's, we're in the middle of my 9th year of monitoring monarch butterflies in Sherwood Forest and in my backyard and any place else, because we also do a monarch monitoring blitz, which is this week, by the way. Stop and check milkweed. If you see any eggs or anything, write it down and you can send it in. You can go online and find more information. Also, 7 years of little brown bat and big brown bat monitoring. And my contacts for bat monitoring are, not Karen, Heather Caracana down at UW-Madison. It was Karen Oberhauser for the butterflies. She had been in Minnesota, at UW-Minnesota, running the Monarch Joint Venture and Monarch Monitoring Project, and then she moved to UW-Madison. She retired about a year ago, but whoever took over for her, she was running the Arboretum, could really help you out there. So if you call and ask for somebody who isn't there anymore, they'll still know who she is. She's got books out and everything. And the good news is the last year, the bats are up this last summer, okay, from the pre and post volancy counts, because white nose syndrome was going down. the bad news is they're not anywhere near where they need to be, for what we need and what they need. And as far as the butterflies are concerned, it's sad. Very sad. I went from having like 150 plants, milkweed plants in one area, probably 3/4 the size of this room, to having 3. Part of that's a fungus, but where did it come from? Other areas, didn't have the fungus, but where did it come from? And it was obviously the spraying and a number of other things. If we have to deal with solar panels, we're dealing with things that are going to interrupt all of this. And so my feeling for everybody is, in the town, they need to realize, if you like eating fruits and vegetables, don't kill off the monarchs or any of the other insects that take care of that stuff for us. The pollinators, we need them desperately. And if you don't like getting eat up by mosquitoes, don't kill off the bats. But it is, you can follow along and see things online and see what's going on. And so we do have the resources, that's for sure. And give me a call if you need anything. I've got, circles and arrows and diagrams on the back of each one kind of thing. So, but it is rather disturbing.
Are any of those bats in danger that you know of?
Yes, there are some, yeah.
The little brown and the big brown, I think.
Yep.
And we have those in the area?
Oh, yeah. If you want, give me a call. We can go out and do bat counts. They're fun. Sometimes they dive bomb you. The other night, one of the parents was dive bombing one of the babies. You can tell because they're close in size, but one's a little bigger as opposed to the bigger brown bats, and their wing beat patterns are different. But it was like coming out the first time from, the roost, and I get to go out and, eat and catch mosquitoes like the big people do. Well, the little guy didn't want to go back in, and Mom said, "You're going back in."
So we already know that we have these things.
Oh, yeah.
The ones that we have, what do we do with that information?
Well, we gotta find them on the location, but that's where it's nice
Yep.
having you to Stevens Point,
Mhm.
independent source verifying for you.
Yep, and also UW-Madison, because all my stuff goes there.
Okay.
So,
Oh, back there in the back then.
Thank you.
John Marker again. I'll make 2 comments. The first comment is that solar farms produce a lot of heat. And from 3 to 7 miles around the solar farm, you'll raise your temperatures 3 to 5 degrees over a year. So in Florida, it's even higher than that because they have more sunlight. They get up to 10% in some areas. So that causes some problems with vegetation. That causes some problems with your bats. And it'll be causing some problems with the water ways that we have problems with already. In that the temperature in the atmosphere is warmer, the water will be warmer. You'll probably go up a couple degrees in the water also. That's the first comment. The second comment I want to bring up is my wife took it upon herself and organized a group of people to stop a subdivision which was going in next to our subdivision in Florida. It had some nice eagles' nests, beautiful eagles' nests. They were photographed. She spent 6 months protecting them from this developer so they couldn't take them down. And finally, the court system and the developer went head-to-head about it, and a sum of money, and I don't know exactly what the sum of money was given to the county to move those eagles from the property, and the property then was developed. So even if you do stop them with what you're trying to do here, they still have some side barbs that they can maybe do, like move things. I mean, so we had to be careful of that too.
We're just looking, John, for something, way, because a lot of last week at the board meeting, the solar farm meeting, that's, a lot, and you know what, you're someone who we're going to want at these meetings, because you obviously have a lot of personal, experience with what the effects, but this committee is like, what can we do, because of these effects. So, I mean, it could be bigger than us, but like Carl said, this has been tried before in our state, and we are looking to be The first to stop the solar farm. Because if we don't do something, who will?
Well, I think you're correct in wanting to stop the solar farm. I'm for that. But I think too, you have to think a little more long-term, and that the company that you're fighting has got some deep pockets, that is going to take a large amount of cash to fight against. Number one. Number two is, what happens if they win? What do you want to do if they win? And the buffer zone I had written down here of trees around the solar farm to disguise it might be a great solution to it. But the problem is that there are acres and acres of solar panels. You're still going to have the heat. You're still going to have the runoff. You're still going to have the problems that solar panels give you. So I don't know.
I'll tell you what, Carl, let's do this. We have an attorney, and let's find out what he wants us to do as a committee. What does he suggest we're going to do? Let's talk to him and move from there.
Let me comment real quick. So, we're getting kind of long in the hour here.
Can I say something quick? The first solar meeting we had when Nextra first came here and met with us, and everybody stood up and said their piece, and they somewhat listened. After that was all said and done, one taller, skinny guy that was kind of in charge of the meeting at that time, a gentleman came out of the crowd. Now, that people who own that had their lawyer here, but he came out of the crowd when I was going to ask that guy a question, and he said to him, if this don't work out, I have other land. So, other land, why don't you move it out of here, move it to his other land, so we don't have to deal with it. I mean, when I moved, like I said before, when I moved up here, the prettiest part of Adams County is when you hit the Roan Township and drive to Wood County. It's beautiful. And on the thing that when the TV or whatever had that thing out there and they posted on, there's a gentleman says, I don't live there, but we come here every summer. Why would you want to do that? And we have to think about, yeah, it's going to cost us some money. I don't know how much it costs, probably more than we ever have, to fight it. But you got to stop and think what we're going to lose in the end. We're spending how many thousands of dollars to keep our lakes clean? I read somewhere that a solar farm is supposed to be 1.5 miles away from any waterway. On Highway D, that ain't no 1.5 miles.
No.
And when it starts leaking in, it's going to go Camelot, Sherwood, right on down to Arrowhead, and right on into the river. So I don't see how we cannot fight it with some. I don't know how, but we got to do something. We can't just sit here.
14-mile Shed Waterway group, are they involved at all, or do they?
Jess, can you speak to that? Or you're the only one here associated with it.
Oh, okay, yes. Yes, they're looking into it and would like to become, I'm sure would like to become involved. I know my husband's interested, very interested in this. I mean, who wouldn't be, to live here? I don't know what steps they're planning on doing because I'm not on the board, but I know they're very concerned. I mean, to spend all these years doing all this work trying to clean up the water and then have leakage, get back into it, that could be an even bigger problem than the, than the algae bloom. So, background music. So, yeah, I'm sure at the next meeting, because the last meeting with dealing with the solar panels was like in between the last, well, it was after the last 14-mile meeting, but before the next one, which is coming up. So I'm sure it's going to be on the agenda.
Because there are other groups, that's what I'm saying. If you've got this group that's monitoring butterflies and bats, and we've got the 14-mile watershed, one of the things that we do need to do at this time too is start to combine forces.
Thank you. And I forgot my husband has been also this is his 9th year doing monitoring butterflies, but he has this big, huge patch out on the Prairie Chicken Reserve out near Almond. And it's, we lay down transits and do all this other stuff and even monitor all the monitoring plants or the blooming plants. Whereas with my study in the backyard and that kind of stuff, I just say, yes, they're there. But, for his, we have to count every petal just about. So we've got like about 9 years. Well, we're on our 9th year data for that. It's an all-day thing. It's a lot of fun, but we are getting older, and so it's not as easy as it used to be. But it's very interesting. Just that area alone. The year they burned, we went out and went, thanks for telling us. Nothing but stubble, no butterflies, and that was, I think, 3 years ago. This year things are looking better. But the first few years we were out there, the milkweed plants were taller than me. Well, okay, most 4th graders are. But anyway, they were huge. I mean, it's like going through the jungle, really. And now they're, we're lucky if we see one that's 10, 12 inches high. So I'm not sure what the cause is there, but, there's a lot of speculation. Thank you.
I have a question for you. How close are you to this solar farm that they want to build? Where you
We're
are doing
on-
your study?
Let's see, we're about 2.5 miles from here. We're on South Archer's Way. So we are just like about 2.5 miles from where we're at now, going a hair south or a hair east and a little bit south on Lake Sherwood. So
So this would affect you too.
it would affect everybody,
But I mean,
gardens and everything. Gardens don't get pollinized. And bats do pollinizing too, besides eating at the mosquitoes. So, yeah, it is. It really is. Thank you.
We're going to need to wrap up here pretty quick, folks.
I was just wondering, wouldn't it be prudent for us to check with Sand Valley and see if they would help the town with this fight? Because they're building, $1 million homes out there. Who's going to want those with that solar farm?
Hi, my name is Moiz Badani. I go by Mike. I live on 237 9th Avenue. I've been here about 9 years. It was my second home. I even made it permanently about 2 years ago. And I was on the board in Madison with Wisconsin Petroleum for 11 years. And we fought things with different communities, different areas of whether it's any legislative. I mean, we got 3 commissioners that are approving this. Am I right at the end of the day? In Madison. Why don't we write the letters to the local legislative people or the senators? That's what we had to fight in the petroleum business. There was 1 year, I remember back in about 8-10 years ago, they wanted to have all the schools start before Labor Day. Quick Trip being a big partner, big business in town, they put a foot down. You know how many millions of dollars it would cost them if the kids went back to school before Labor Day? Because Labor Day weekend is a big weekend for them when they're traveling all over the state. So we got the state representative, and of course we had stores, locations all over the state. So, but my point is, to put the pressure on the commissioner, we have to start with the legislative in Madison. That's what we pay at the end of the day. That's where my tax dollars, everybody's tax dollars, pays for the salary. We got to get them involved in it. That's my point. I don't know how much power, but maybe we can check with the attorney if we can send some kind of a letter. It was drafted through our petroleum association and just emailed to us, and then we just put it in an envelope, and I sent it. I had a business in Heartland near Oconomowoc, and my home was in Waukesha, so we sent it to Chris Kapenga, who is a state senator right now, president. And we sent it to Cindy Duco, who was my representative in Waukesha. And of course, they took our points and everything, and at times we defeated some of these things. I'm not saying it's going to be, but we have to start in Madison. So I just want to give you my 2 thoughts, that's what we had to do in our business,
Thank you. Okay, just to sort of wrap this up a little bit today, our agenda today was to to start the brainstorming process. So I'm going to assume, by a show of hands, that everybody in this room wants to remain on this committee. Show of hands? Okay, I would like to have Cindy collect your email addresses before you leave today, so that we can ask her to compile a list of all of the ideas that were shared today. Feed that list then back to everybody to make sure that we didn't miss something, that everything is included on that list. And then the next meeting, we'll go and we'll start the process of evaluating those. We'll also send a copy to you, so that you can maybe share it with your attorney. Brainstorming 101 is basically all the spaghetti on the wall, and then you usually use a process that says, this is how much it's gonna cost, high, low, or medium, and this is the impact, high, low, or medium. So you assign those values to each of those ideas, and you wind up with the highest impact, lowest cost solutions that we can then pursue. And hopefully we'll make some progress. But I've heard some really great ideas today, and I thank everybody for coming. I think we got off to a pretty good start, and I know your pen has been flying on that paper over there, so I appreciate you being the secretary. Carl?
In the meantime, I will get a hold of the attorney, I'll find out about the ordinances, if we can do them, we probably can, but, will they?
Yeah, will it be effective? And then also have him do some research on, what control we do have over the farm, if anything. I thought the other thing too is if we start rolling with the UWSP, I was gonna send a list out. I already have a list of folks to get a hold of, not their addresses, but the senators, congressmen, all the politicals. So, we can start rolling with that. And one last thing, a friend of mine, she actually spoke at the meeting about the solar farm at the meeting last week, and she is going to be interviewed this week and next week. This week, Emily from WSAW is going to interview her, and next week she's got the radio station, and she lives right up there, and she'll speak her mind.
Well, if there was something that Emily needs to be corrected on, that she reported incorrectly on her piece, that we all heard, if there was something that was wrong, we should correct her on that, and she should then correct herself.
Sure.
Okay.
I hate to say this, one more question. There are boards like Camelot, Arrowhead, Sherwood. A lot of these people, I golf over there, they have no clue about this. So I'm wondering if we send a letter out to the head of the boards of these each community boards to inform their people. They all have emails for them. They could send something out for their emails to each of their areas.
Sure.
And that would, would help.
What we should do, that's us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of good ideas. I'll try to compile them.
Yeah, but I mean, if they do have boards, right? I'm not familiar with the area, but they do have boards. So if we could find the president of the board and get them a letter, then they can focus on sending that out to their people on their emails. That would help us save us some money.
Sure.
So anyway, I'd be more than happy to help with that, but like I said, I'm not familiar with all this, but just give me the info.
When Cindy sends out the email, please respond that everything that you saw was correct, or you approve of it, so we can make sure we got unanimous decision among this committee, and then we can proceed to the next step. So with that, I think we need to set the next meeting date and time.
Are we going to open this up to anybody else, or are we just going to kind of?
That was my question too. I would suggest, I didn't put this out in mass. I didn't know if you wanted a whole bunch of people here. We probably could have filled the room up, but I think we get the people involved. But again, for input. But
well, you have to be careful that if you have 50 people in here and everyone talks for 2 minutes, you've just blown
exactly.
an hour and a half,
Yep.
and sometimes it'll be repetitive from what we've already discussed.
We are the action. I mean,
Yeah.
we should do. That's what I'm kind of saying. We are the doers.
Right.
But you get the people in here too, then words are spreading. So
if somebody wants to join the committee, they can certainly contact me or Cindy or you or somebody, and we can certainly let them join the committee. But I don't know that we want to open it up to where we have to sit in there, because that's what it'll be another bitch session.
I got one. can't we do like the 14-mile watershed thing does? Can't we have, we've got enough people here, somebody take a Friday down at the farmer's market and have papers printed out and
We could do anything we
present
want
them?
to.
That
That's-
wouldn't, I mean, all it would cost was the paper, and we got a printer here, don't we? Print them out and hand them out?
We could do anything we want.
So
All-
then
That
we
was
need
all
to
part of the
find out
suggestion.
that is a great idea, Gary, but what we need to find out is, how do you get a booth at the farmer's market? You know, like, yes, Denise?
Could we share the 14 mile?
That's what I was thinking too, we could incorporate into that.
I don't, yeah, I don't know how,
Yeah, probably put
the town of Rome also has.
Right,
too.
put literature there. Yeah, we can put literature there, so,
Okay.
yeah.
So we could use either vote or probably vote.
Well, that's what we'd have to find out and do, and
So, okay, so let's go back to the next meeting. What, do we want to meet weekly? Do we want to meet every other week? How often do we want to meet? Is weekly fine for everybody? Is that too often?
I think at first we should meet weekly until we start getting designated,
Okay.
you know, stuff to do, I mean, if you guys can. When school starts,
Okay.
it'll be subbing.
Are Wednesdays a good day for everybody? The same time today, is Wednesday afternoon at 3 o'clock like we did today?
Oh, you know, that's early release day for the kids at school.
School doesn't start for another month. Next Wednesday, that will work. The following week, not, I don't think it will.
Okay, so next week, next
Let's
Wednesday
do
works,
one at a time, yep, next Wednesday.
3 o'clock.
Six, thanks, Mike. 6 at 3 o'clock, okay.
Okay, with that, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second? All in favor, say aye.
Say your name so she knows to write it down.
John Marker,
Thank you.
second.
Denise Barker.
Denise.
Moved and seconded, we adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, don't